uh, one very unavoidable thing came up, so I had to join at 2:30.
No problem, sir. Shall we start, sir?
Definitely, please.
Nivedita, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, all, and welcome back to the session. For our session, I warmly welcome Dr. Dhananjay Singh, who is a senior civil servant in the Government of India with extensive experience in policy making, revenue administration, and cross-border trade. Currently serving in the Indian Revenue Service (IRS) under the Ministry of Finance, he has held key positions across New Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Ahmedabad, Customs Zone Barodra, CGST Zone, Mussoorie, and Faridabad. Previously, he served as a commissioned office in the Ministry of Defense for 7 years, contributing to national security and strategic governance. Dr. Singh is a Chevening Gurukul Fellow at the University of Oxford, is a distinguished researcher in AI ethics, responsible AI, sustainable supply chain management, and Industry 4.0. He has earned his PhD from IIT Kanpur, focusing on ethical AI and sustainable supply chains. His academic background includes a postgraduate diploma in business law from NLSIU, a master's in sociology from IGNOU, and a certificate in enterprise management from IIT Delhi. Additionally, he holds a certification in environmental management from IISC, specialized in sustainability assessment tool like life cycle analysis and environmental impact assessment. With extensive expertise in governance and interdisciplinary research, Dr. Singh explores AI governance, intellectual property rights, and business sustainability. Drawing insights from law, philosophy, and sociology, he addresses ethical challenges in emerging technologies. He actively contributes to policy making in supply chain strategy, trade facilitation, and sustainable manufacturing, driving innovation and economic resilience. We are honored to welcome such a dignitary. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much. So, can you please share the slides?
Yes, sir. Sir, kindly allow us a minute. We'll share the slide.
So, I'm trying to share the slides now. Yeah.
We have shared the slide.
Yeah. You can make me the presenter.
Okay, sir.
Or yeah. First of all, let me welcome you all. And also, I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So, is there some issue? It's not moving ahead. Okay. There's some issue in the movement part.
Yes, sir, it's not moving actually. Sir, in case of any issue, we can share it from our side also.
Uh, yeah, then you can go ahead.
Okay, sir.
So we can go to the third slide. So yeah. So the main agenda points of our discussion would be about the given the developmental challenges that India is facing, uh, and then how we are going to have a balance with the environmental sustainability. So that is also the theme of the entire the program that we are having. So in this, I would like to bring in the strategy map for a new India, which is there in the Niti Aayog document, and what are the main drivers that we are having, and what are the other aspects, because this is where the public policy is getting driven at. The public policy, the major drivers are for the public policy are the growth and employment. And then, as we all know, in even in today's time, doubling of farmers' income and the agriculture is a very important part. Even though there's a lot of work which is required in the agriculture sector to shift the people from to bring the number of people in disguise and employment to the minimum, and to shift the people to other sectors where they can be productively employed. So manufacturing, regardless of the sluggish process, but progress remains a very important part of the entire developmental program. So the manufacturing, given the various supply chains, regional supply chains, and the global supply chains, and how India is getting placed in that. Uh, Presents both a challenge and an opportunity. So, science, technology, and innovation. So these are the drivers which have been identified in the policy document of the Government of India: science, technology, and innovation, and then fintech and tourism. So the infrastructure, we know that infrastructure is the representative of the fixed capital formation, which will help in enabling the other sectors to perform, or to enabling the other sectors to be able to produce the outputs. So energy is a very important infrastructure sector: transport, smart cities, and then the environment and water resources. Environment and water resources is there in the strategy document. However, it becomes very important to realize uh, the situation that we are in right now, wherein there is a lot of pressure of the population also, and at the same time the resources are very much spread far between in the case of India. And as we know, the aspects of inclusion directly come from the constitution of the country, and the constitution of the country envisages social equity and inclusion of all people from different socioeconomic backgrounds and the religious backgrounds. and inclusion. So inclusion basically very importantly includes education, health, nutrition, gender, and the tribal communities. And topping it all, we all understand the importance of governance. Governance is actually a cross-cutting theme which enables the manner of functioning of any organization, be it private or public. So the governance we understand through the prism of making it more transparent and accountable, and use of data so that such goals can be achieved. We can go to the next one. So the agri sector, in the case of India, agri sector becomes a very important sector even in today's times, when the sector doesn't get a relatively larger focus as compared to other sectors of the economy. But agri sector, even as we speak, remains one of the elephant in the room. It is one of the one of the most important sectors even today, and because it employs one of the largest number of people in the country, and the other largest number of people in the country are employed in the MSME sector, which is also called the unorganized sector, and the one of the lowest employment is in the organized sector, and the growth of employment in the organized sector has decreased, including both government and the other corporate sector. So given this socioeconomic reality, we have to understand how the agri sector provides an opportunity for ensuring sustainability. And sustainability, as we know, is directly linked to the prosperity of the society. For example, just to take an example, Amsterdam in Holland has an entirely different way of urban mobility, where they are mostly onto bicycles, and but that also when we want to compare apples and oranges, we need to be aware that they have a different development trajectory, and they have different sets of financial resources, and also the governance structures are also different. But coming back to India, we are all aware of these systems, how they are functioning, and then we have to be also aware that how we can make the best of the resources that we have. So the farmer producer organizations is a very important development which has happened in the past decade. Farmer producer organizations are basically community led organizations which bring in the social capital. So can be a facilitator, but government cannot be cannot run a sustainable business, and that has been the norm everywhere. So government can be a facilitator by providing a level playing field for the different economic operators to function. So a very important development which has happened is the mobilization of the farmer producer organizations or community based organizations, and there are a number of success stories also across India, ranging from Odisha to Maharashtra to other states. But then there has to be many more, because given the quantum of the people, and given the quantum uh, of the needs of the country, it requires a lot of further boost. I mean, and other important requirements are about the how the agricultural produce can be taken towards further value addition. I mean, the how more agro processing industries can be set up. So that will bring in more value addition, and also shift the people who are beyond the required number mm, uh, to the value added services or the agro based industries. So that for that, a private entrepreneurship is very much required. And mm, uh, uh, some efforts have happened in this field, wherein private entrepreneurs have come together and build a cold chain infrastructure, or provided a platform by which they can do tech based platform by which they can provide they can connect the buyers and sellers uh, um, uh, in the minimum with the minimum transaction cost. So such things are progressing, uh, but but this sector requires more and more efforts. If there are any queries, I'll request the participants, they may address it even during the presentation. You can go to the next slide, please. So the efforts of the government have been on multiple folds. For example, there were economic packages which were announced post the COVID, and plus there was a revision in the definition of MSMEs, where distinction between manufacturing services was removed. This actually enabled the providing of loans by the banks to them, and also investment limits were revised accordingly. I mean, the criterion for turnover. Turnover basically means the annual sales done by an enterprise. So that was also criterion of turnover was added, but the investment limits, earlier investment limits uh, were for example, micro enterprises investment up to 1 crore and turnover up to 5 crores. Basically, it was revised upwards so that more and more units can be included in the definition. So mostly we know that more than 46% of India's exports come from the MSME sector. So this is another very important sector of the Indian economy. For example, the agriculture sector remains the most important, and the second most important, I think, is the MSME sector, or in that also it is the small and micro enterprises. So the corporate sector, as we discussed, the share is you may have the economic figures, but the share is to the employment is not that high. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is another some more details about the importance of the sector and how the sector remains a very important sector if we want to um, bring about more prosperity and thereby more sustainability. Uh, so in the MSME sector, you can relate with international examples of Germany. How Germany leverages MSME sector. Germany, even though it's a developed country, advanced country, most of the industries I mean, they have a great focus on the SME. They call it the SME sector, so small and medium enterprises. They have a great focus on that, and they encourage that. So there's a lot of focus. I mean, the SME first policies are there. I mean, policies are made for the SMEs, then it is tailored to corporates. So MSMEs and non-profits crucial for seamless last mile delivery. Basically, MSME sector are non-profits. Non-profits are the community-based organization. They have the last mile connectivity, and so they have a very important role to play. And as we know in management, we call the green ocean and blue oceans. So I mean, sorry, the red oceans and the blue oceans. So red ocean is the same strategy of copying another business model again and again. For example, in cities we see so many delivery or the e-commerce options coming. Somebody saying delivering 5 minutes in such busy roads in Delhi, for example, in 10 minutes. But it's at the it may be at the cost of the life of the delivery person. So, but then there are more business models which are ab initio more sustainable. For example, if we are going into blue oceans, for example, such sectors which are there are gaps where value can be generated, are where in Mofussil towns or in tier 2 cities which require these services. And slowly and steadily the purchasing power is also rising there. So another important aspect that I wanted to emphasize is that there is a, for the MSME sector, government remains a major purchaser, and there is a platform by which they can always get their purchases. I mean, bought by the government sector, that is government e-marketplace or GM. So another very important development, and slowly and steadily it is getting emphasized, is the trades. Trades platform is electronic platform facilitating the financing and discounting of trade receivables of MSME sector through multiple financiers. Basically, as we know that MSME sector has a shortage of working capital. And given the business models that are operating, most of the business models that are operating on having having a longer paying period for their suppliers. So longer paying period is compressing the margins for the suppliers and increasing the relatively increasing the margins of the buyers or the big corporates. So for that, the intervention which is coming up is that there will be financial intermediaries who will be go between the MSME sector and the big corporates and give them the money for their bills at a certain markup. Yeah, and some that will be a beneficial proposition for the MSME sector. So next slide, please. In the case of India, the most of the solutions that can be sustainable or which have a potential to become most adoptable by the masses, because even though in numbers we may be having huge gross value added, but in terms of per capita income, it remains a concern. So this aspect brings us to the point that if any business which has to be sustainable, they have to look at the masses or how they can cater to the masses. And the masses in India, or the major customers are having purchasing power which is not that high. So and plus taking into account the environmental concerns, it's a win-win situation that if we are going ahead with the sustainable or frugal innovations, it will be a very important, very significant development, because even in the aftermath of COVID, there were indigenous entrepreneurs who came from different walks of life. And for example, my lab, COVID-19 test kits were made, and they were different people bringing different skill set together and making it happen. Next slide, please. So on the entrepreneurship and startups front, we have a startup network in India, and the startup network in India also has some very good examples, ranging from AI field. For example, Niramai. Niramai is a startup, basically a technology startup based in Bangalore, and what they do is they take the AI scans and they provide solutions for breast cancer screening for women from very marginalized section, or from people who are unable to utilize the best facilities available in cities. So Niramai is one such very good example of a very capable application of technology. Other examples which are there could be Ethereal Machines. Ethereal Machines is another startup based in Bangalore, which came up from founders from not IIT but other engineering colleges, and they're now making parts which are going into the aerospace industry space. So but the point that I want to add here is how we can go ahead for providing the market solutions to the different resources and that are still available in the country, which, for example, Fab India may be one example, but it's another case study to examine the how it has gone through. But then I want to give another example, which I would request participants to have a look at, is the example of the Chinese Taobao, Taobao. Taobao is a very successful example wherein China is, in terms of demographics, is slightly related to us, but in terms of development and technology is far ahead. So, but this example of Taobao, why I'm taking is that they have also a largely rural population, mm, uh, and how Taobao has brought the rural offerings or the skill sets or the for example artisans or the handicrafts by the artisans to the urban markets at a through sustainable business models which are not exploitative. I mean, they are relatively more transparent and less exploitative, and through the to the urban markets where there is a purchasing power, and then they can buy the products. So the artisans we have in India, a conservative number of artisans are 100 million. And 100, can you think of any very good sustainable business model which would be there on a very good scale, which would be bringing the artisanal handicrafts to the people who have the purchasing power, other than Fab India or something like that? So I'll request participants to comment on that. Are there any other examples of in India? Because we have the numbers of artisans in India, 100 million, the conservative figure being 100 million. So that shows that we require a lot of entrepreneurship in areas which are not so much in the limelight, but nevertheless in army we say they are the infantry. So they are the core, the bread and butter, like the MSME sector or the major or the artisans who have a lot of skills, and there may be very few corporates or some companies who would be doing it, but how sustainable it is, it's a matter of supply chain audit. Or but there is a case for so many other entrepreneurs who may be more sustainable, more equitable capitalists, can bring uh, the prosperity to a larger number of people. Next slide, please. So in India, we have 3 million non-profits. So if there is an effort to mobilize non-profits along with the for-profit collaboration between for-profit and non-profit, I think that, it will be a very good example of agglomeration economies, wherein we can bring in, for example, we can bring in the non-profit as a last mile leg, and the for-profit also has a major role to play, and both can bring their strengths together. Next slide, please. So we have examples also in the field of non-profits. So globally, a very good example of non-profit which has done quite good work is Khan Academy. So Khan Academy's motto is to provide free education to anywhere, anytime in the world. So Khan Academy has done quite a good work in that, and everybody would appreciate that they have the likes of best corporates who are vying to contribute to the CSR funds for that company. So that itself is a example of how much equity, brand equity, they are getting by getting associated with that startup or with that non-profit. So in the case of just to take an example, Parinam Foundation along with Ujjivan is another financial intermediary in India, work with around 2,500 ultra poor people on the road, delivering essentials to the needy. So there is a lot of work, especially from the industry to other than the 2% of profit after tax, which is mandatory as per the law, the CSR requirement. But there's more than that requirement for the the organized sector to work for the other sectors in the economy, because that directly has an impact on the sustainability. If the majority of the people do not have the financial resources or the resources, then the environment will be the first casualty. So the microfinance institutions have foot on the ground. So there are other very good examples of microfinance institutions on the ground, which have quite a good reputation. They are actually doing quite good work by providing the financial inclusion to the most needy, who actually need that financial inclusion. Uh, so mm, so and so it can be a very good mix between corporate and the non-profits. Next slide, please. So this slide you would have seen multiple times, but this slide actually this sustainable development goals. We have been running this for many years. So, but then this things remains all the more important given the change in geopolitics in US and other countries. So this remains all the more important. But India, in the discourse on climate, Paris Agreement, and other related aspects, recently concluded COP also. So the environmental protection processes at the global level, they require another discussion. But then these things are a very much reminder that the environmental concerns are directly or intricately related with the economic concerns of the day-to-day economic concerns of the people. Next slide, please. So this is from the resources of Shrishti. Shrishti Innovation is or GIAN is a initiative by a professor, retired professor from IIM Ahmedabad. And what they have done is they have gone in and documented all the sustainable practices in the country through Padyatras. And this is one such from their resource, duly acknowledging the reference here. So what they have documented is that the sustainable way of construction can be where bridges are actually through a process of nature. So so we have another thinking point. Can we go to the next slide, please? So here, we can juxtapose the living root bridges with probably many of you would be aware of the discourse happening on Great Nicobar mega infrastructure project. So can I have somebody who would like to comment on this? So this is a very important uh, thing which is happening related to environment, and I'll request the readers to have a look at it. And being informed readers, I mean, can I request Mr. Arvind to go ahead with his point?
Sir, actually, my question is regarding that you have mentioned, given the example of an academy, and you have
Yes.
talked about something related to the corporate funds. I was not able to get that one. Can you, sir, reiterate that?
Yeah, sure. So Khan Academy, I'm talking about Khan Academy. There may be many Khan Academies, but the Khan Academy that I'm referring to is to Sal Khan, that US person, the Bangladeshi US person. So Salman Khan, his full name, he's a Harvard Business School product. He runs a non-profit called Khan Academy. Khan Academy basically Khan Academy has the contribution from the likes of Google and the best of the Silicon Valley. So and what I'm the example that I was trying to give, some live example to show that there, there may be so much of equity, brand equity, or so much of social capital which may be there in interventions which are not so, I mean, like building missiles or something like that. So nothing like that. But then it is common day-to-day thing which impacts everybody's life, and basically providing education to the most needy or the more, accessible across the world. Naturally, some basic internet charges will be there, but then that was the sense in which I was saying that the big best in the corporates in the West, they vie to contribute to the funds of Khan Academy.
Got it, sir. And related to this Great Nicobar mega infrastructure project, I have a little bit knowledge. It is related to, I believe, creating greenfield airport as well as power infrastructure.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's right. So we have an informed group of people. So my my purpose is to just be as a facilitator and provide some points. Basically, it is like a very important thing to know that there are so many aspects to this, and which naturally, see, as a researcher, our job is to take a dispassionate position. But then, having said that, there are value orientation. So every researcher has their value orientation. So, but then I'll request, depending on uh, how the participants would go about it, to have to read it, because the aspect of development, we are seeing it in many places where forests are cut, and so the aspect of development, because it's a zero sum game. So if we cut the forest, then probably forest cannot be replaced. Reforestation it's like a supplementary exam. So supplementary exam cannot produce a topper. It's a subjective thing again, but then supplementary exam serves a different purpose. So reforestation, in my very crude analogy, is not is not the best way to go about that. And development needs, or the requirement of the population and the development, I don't think it is a very cogent explanation for going about that. And even I go to the extent of discussing that even other reasons which may be given may not be that cogent, or if you go about a dispassionate analysis, that may be justifying the developments. So we go to the next slide, please. So we have some very good Indian examples also. So we look at the best in Indian examples also, along with the examples from the West. So we have very good Indian examples which are world class, like Arvind Eye Care. One evidence can be that they have been covered by Harvard Business School case study also. One very simple, example of to show how our Indian entrepreneurship or has done world class. Then we have other things like startups like R Imagined, who work in the circular economy space, based in Bangalore again. So maybe it may be my knowledge about some regions. There may be many others in other regions also. Then we have Turtle is textile, and textile industry today nowadays is one of the most significant industries which have a lot of carbon footprint. So fast fashion is another very important area which naturally has a big carbon footprint. And the way the returns and the e-commerce thing has got it for its own business purposes. And then one of the best examples, in my personal opinion, is Patagonia. So Patagonia it's one of the best examples that I could see. It's a company which itself states that please keep our product, try to recycle it, and we make our product so that it serves you to for the longest period. again, I consider it as an academic discussion, so nothing against any brand, but Lenskart. I took a glass from Lenskart, small thing, slightly broke, and it was very new, 15 days. When checked up with the shop, they told her, no, you have to replace it. So this is an example wherein we could have done it other ways also. It's not a matter. People from our, the community that we are discussing, they have the purchasing power. They can buy another one. But that is not the mood question. The question is, when the spectacles was new, we could have made it. We would designed it in such a way that would be repaired. That is why in many countries, in many developed countries, repair cafes are happening. Even for my kid, who's a class 9 student, class 7 student, and other students whom we interact with, we always encourage repair. Try to do with your hand. Because after having done MBA, we all understand increasing the volume, increase the turnover, the top line will come into the bottom line. This is okay, but at the end of the day, this is the cost of the environment. In Delhi, we see a lot of big, huge dumps of garbage daily, and it's a danger which is lying next door. And why? For a profit. And but at what cost? At the end of the day, the community is paying the cost. So Patagonia, what did they do? I'll request the participants to have a look at the thing, but to understand that it's perfectly possible. Because we may give the reason that the corporates may give the reason that, okay, they have to answer every Q3 calls, quarter ending calls, so they have the tough thing to do. So they have to answer their shareholders and stuff like that. Patagonia also has to answer the shareholders. So, but then they state in that mission that we are making basically it's a wild, it's a basically a sports apparel, or for example trekking and such kind of apparels they made. So basically it is an outdoor activity kind of. So they make their offerings in such a way that their customers can use it for the longest possible, and in case required, they'll assist the customers in reusing it, or maybe making the product so nice that it can be reused without any major deterioration in quality. So our participants can exercise their own discretion to say that how much circular, which is more circular. I mean, which company's process is more circular, or who is circularity is followed mostly by which one, Patagonia or the other one. So these examples are actually very important because this thing is happening day in and day out with us. And so if slowly and steadily, if the customers become conscious about it, for example, in the developed West, in Europe and all, it is mandatory by certain laws also that they have to do all this compliances for the environmental laws. But there is a different set of realities for India, which all of us are aware of. Can we go to the next slide, please? So some case studies. Can we go to the next slide to show responsible business? So these two are actually a very, I thought, a very good example to show how triple bottom line. We all know that triple bottom line is one such framework to understand sustainability. Triple bottom line means how sustainability can be done at environmental level, at social level, and then economic level. So economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental sustainability all go together. So TBL as an accountability framework. So there are two aspects to that. If you take the example of State Street Global Advisors, if the participants search this name on the internet, they'll find that from the picture somebody can make out. I'll request some participant to comment on the picture on the given under the State Street Global Advisors. A girl standing before a bull, charging bull. A girl standing fearlessly before a charging bull. Yeah, somebody may go ahead, please. Something?
Sir,
Yes,
I think she's trying to predict the bull and the bearish market, where probably when the market flourish, it is the bull market, and when the market goes down, it is the bearish market. Is it something like that?
yeah. You are. Thank you for the feedback. So it's right actually. So so it's a company. It's a put by a company, and basically what they're trying to show that to encourage the customers to be more aggressive in the market. So the posture of the girl is showing the aggressiveness. I mean, positive in positive sense, aggressiveness, and so basically, as we know, one of the one not mostly not the only one, but one of the main factors in a market, financial market, is confidence, level of confidence. For example, if there are some aspersions cast on the chairperson of a regulatory body, say the chairperson, for example, so it will have an impact on the confidence. So similarly, if you take the example of this one, this is not in India. This in the West. This example is from the West. So in this, they wanted to, I mean, bring in animal spirits, which we say in economics, animal spirits. So they wanted to show the enthusiasm or the audacity or the, in a positive sense, the courage or fearlessness through a girl standing fearlessly before a charging bull. So, just, and now coming to another one, gravity payments. Basically, this is another example, especially after the COVID, when there was a lot of human tragedy and businesses closing down. This is one such entrepreneur who told that he will not send out his employees. Rather, he'll take a pay cut himself, and rather he will have a cut for, I mean, which is reasonable for other employees also, and then most of the pay cut he will take. So such examples which show that, see, for example, if we all know that the GPT-4, the environmental impact of GPT-4, it has been documented already in their annual reports of the respective companies, and how much environmental impact of the AI is there. It is already impacted. I mean, it is not for us to, but it for the future generations to pay for it. And one of the most important arguments, one of the most important assertions is in the intergeneration parity. So whatever damages are being done to the nature or the environmental aspects are going to be paid by the posterity. So, and one of the most important things that are equally important in the AI debate is about the huge carbon footprint impact of the data centers, which consume a very huge amount of power. And the level of GPT-4 that we have, maybe the advanced layer, the Chinese one also has come. So we have is, I mean, naturally not it's, in my personal opinion, it will take quite some time to reach anywhere near humans. But then given the present level, I think it is a probabilistic estimator of the next word, depending on the historical data. So, but for that, how much environmental resources we have to give is an open question. So it is for anybody and everybody to think about it, and that how much, what is the balance in that. Next slide, please. So some more examples I want to bring in to show that entrepreneurs, day-to-day entrepreneurs, or people from any walk of life or any college, well, there's so much of craze in BTech level to join IITs, and given the number of seats that we have, plus two, there are so many uh, bright kids who may be missing out by some fraction of maybe some decimals. So that is why, given that fact, we have to use it's applicable to civil services also. So given the fact that there's so many talented people in India, and we have so much of huge, very beautiful human capital, which is being used by the West mostly because of migration. But then one example I would like to highlight is the example of Televerde. Televerde is a company which uses the prison inmates. After they serving the prison sentence, they have to be integrated in the society. So Televerde is a company based in US which trains is it's totally taking people who have served sentences, and then they are trained to be a very vital part of the of the society. So Teleword is a very classic example of a purpose-driven organization. So how they could derive value from people so-called they were so-called they were convicted or who had served sentences. Served sentences means they have been convicted by a court of law. So despite that, conviction doesn't mean much because the person has already served the sentence. So they can start a new life. And Teleword is such a good example of they have done it. And it's a company which is thriving in a profit-driven world. So next slide, please. So we have AI, which is doing lot of progress is happening in AI, but it is for all of us to think how we are able to use AI to our benefit. So one very commonplace or cliche can be we would have studied in school that science is a good servant but not a good master. So AI can be served to be a good servant. So and it should be relegated to a servant who is serving, and we have to realize the importance. It is very much useful because it can increase efficiencies and it can bring in a lot of value add. But the line has to be drawn. So there are low hanging automations which can help. For example, there are Indian companies also which are doing a lot of conversational AI and chatbots and all. So Niramai spoke about. I request the participant to have a look at it because we have Indian examples, and this Niramai startup is working in Europe and London and UK and all those. And there the laws are naturally they're more advanced and more strict. So we have, and one of the most important things before I conclude is the aspect of platform economies to the sustainability aspect. So platform economies are the digital or the e-commerce has become very much prevalent, especially in the cities, and it is now going to the villages and towns also. And but this has a lot of a practical use also. I mean, e-commerce has a lot of value add to give, a lot of job that is giving. But having said that, there are other aspects of sustainability which it directly impacts. For example, it impacts on the social sustainability. I mean, the wages that are paid to the delivery person in the supply chain, or the automation or the automation to the benefit of the for the efficiency, but automation for the total surveillance. There has to be a line which has to be drawn. So and the social protection of the gig workers, and this all becomes an aspect of social sustainability of supply chain, because supply chain itself is not only economic sustainability, because supply chain, for example, I'll take an example of the very burning topic of e-vehicles. So electric vehicles. So I'll request some participant to comment on the most critical element in the supply chain of electric vehicles.
Sir, I think it is the battery and how far it reaches the tier 3 areas, along with its charging, how capable they have the charging point, means how efficiently they are able to charge, and moreover, what is the frequency of their charging points and how feasible it is.
Yeah, thank you so much. So basically, batteries, and the battery has a certain element, and that certain element, nickel or cobalt, um, uh, is mined in only one country in the world, which is called the Democratic Republic of Congo, so DRC. So, as rightly pointed out by the by Ms. Nivedita, so that battery has a very significant element, and that is mined only in one country in the entire world, which is DRC. And the as we speak today, most of the supply chain of the lithium, I understand lithium, it can be checked on the net also. Lithium. So the one very critical element is mined only in one country, and that is a very critical element in the entire supply chain of the electric vehicles, which even Volkswagen, companies of the like of Volkswagen in Germany are struggling. Why? Because around major part of supply chain of the critical element in the Congo Republic is captured by. Can you guess? Can anybody guess which country?
Must be China, sir.
Yes, you are right. You're totally right. So it is China. So China has captured, even for countries like Germany and other OEMs. They have to how the supply chain has happened is that the Chinese companies have gone ahead, captured the supply chain. Now the other original equipment manufacturers have to purchase through their vendors, and that naturally adds the cost, and that itself is a very big differentiator in the market. So how the critical element and the capture over the supply chain has changed the entire dynamics now. So and then, given this economic or geopolitical reality, how do Indian entrepreneurs place their offerings? That is naturally there would be solutions, but not the usual solutions that may be given out. There may be because the aspect, the Achilles heels has to be identified first. If we identify the Achilles heels, then we can understand that okay, this X solution may not be right, but this there may be some other area wherein we can generate value and earn profits. So that's a very classic example that if we want to enter into the value chain of electric vehicles, we have to cater to this point. Otherwise, we have to enter into such part of the value chain where we have competitive advantage. Otherwise, if Volkswagen is being outcompeted by Baidu, and I request participants to have independent uh, analysis of the topic also, that then, and in my opinion, this is a very major factor, the capital supply chain, because technology wise, both, at least conservatively speaking, also China would be not less but at least competitively same as the Germans. But then if they are outpacing Germans, it means that they have some other more significant advantage, and that is the control over the critical element. So thank you so much for a patient hearing. I'll request if some feedback or some comments are there. I welcome them, please.
Sir, I do have a question from my side.
Yes, please.
Sir, the first question is, I'm working in the area of supply chain finance for SMEs. Sir, as far I have studied about supply chain finance, it's a very good integration of the entire supply chain along with the financial institutions or anyone providing finances to us. But sir, in India, how far it is feasible to bring this to every SMEs who are in functional today? And sir, how can we work on it? Because if few research paper, some research papers which I went through, they have a very strong financial system and they are able to cooperate well. But in India, it is not the scene. So, sir, it becomes a very challenging thing. My question here is, how can we enable SMEs to make them adopt supply chain finance by empowering them or giving them a leverage?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. So we have to think from the point of view of SMEs. So one requirement which SMEs always say, as you very rightly said, is the requirement of finance. So one of the major constraints of SMEs is the requirement of capital, working capital, and finance is a very important part of or requisitioning that working capital. So see, in India we have a very differentiated SME sector. So for example, let me take a real life example. So Coimbatore. So you would have heard about Coimbatore. Coimbatore
Sir,
is a
yes,
place
sir.
in Tamil Nadu, and Coimbatore mm, is a is a hub of tools, machine tools, and then wet grinders. They have the GI tag for wet grinders, and GI is the geographical indications tag. So they have the GI tag for wet grinders and machine tools and pumps. They have quite a uh, good capacity. So let us take the example of SME sectors in Coimbatore. So the SME sector in Coimbatore may be at a different development trajectory. If you take the case of the SME sector in suppose some other place, can you take an example of North India somewhere? So maybe some place which is coming up, for example, in Bihar, which may be North Bihar, suppose, which is agriculturally rich, though devastated by floods, unfortunately. But they may be having a different sort of SMEs who will be, for example, agro processing SMEs. So I think a differentiated solution has to be arrived at, and the financial products or the financial services, if they have to be provided, they have to be tailor made to them. First of all, I think we have to do a design thinking from their perspective, because one stop solution is not working actually. Frankly speaking, it is not working in our case, because the value add is not happening much, and whatever we are able to do is because of, I mean, their own internal strengths which are coming. And one more aspect I would like to highlight, because you talked about finance. One very important aspect which should not be lost sight of, that I have gained through the my professional experience and other things, and interaction with the trade bodies and other things. Trade finance. Trade finance. I'll give an example. You can always go out and check it empirically also. Trade finance is something which is, for example, I'll give you an example also. Post COVID and demonetization. So this is an academic discussion. So I'm being, slightly more, giving more examples, but they may be slightly subjective. So kindly take it in the, the proper perspective.
It's
So
absolutely fine, sir.
yeah. So demonetization and post COVID, what happened is there was a sudden freeze in the cash, and cash is the lifeblood, of an economic entity. Cash doesn't mean black. So Indian economy is cash based even today. So coming back to the trade finance. So trade finance, it means that, uh, let us take the example of Marwadis, one business community in India called Marwadis. So Marwadis, basically, how do they prosper? One of the major reason lies in the topic that you are researching is, finance. They actually have social capital, which stands as a guarantee for the capital advanced. And what trade finance, how does it work? Is that there are internal networks within the trading community itself, who finance out each other. And even today, RBI may not be having very streamlined procedures to recognize this framework of trade firm, but this is economic reality. This is empirical reality. how trade finance can be further increased, because at the end of the day, social cap, see, everything cannot be automated and computed, in my personal opinion, because human beings is about creativity, about some certain amount of subjectivity also. And in my personal opinion, science is as a servant, good servant, and AI also is a very good able servant. So I consider that everything. I mean, social capital has a major role to play. Why? One of the reasons, uh, one of the reasons I think why certain communities did well is because of the social capital they leveraged on. So, and because of social capital, also most of the communities or most of the disadvantaged sections survived from the COVID shock because of the social capital. So I think trade finance is where, I mean, the bank finance where it is falling short in certain communities, that is being plugged by the trade finance, and that is why those communities are able to do well. And whereas where there is a certain, I mean, relatively lesser level of social capital, those communities are not able to. They are saying the bank finance is not available. Naturally, bank finance is an issue, and but bank finance naturally, because given the various episodes of NPAs due to various reasons which are there documented in the press, bank officials have become very circumspect now to give loans. So they have, in other words, they have become very risk averse. So they want 100% collateral, this, that, everything. So that is taking a toll on the advancement of capital. I mean, the capital to the firms. So it's a very interesting thing. But in my personal opinion, it requires a subjective and a very case-based analysis. And because in the case of India, India is such a diverse country and different. If you go to Northeast, they will be having certain economic practices, and with cultural practices which are embedded in the economic practices. So it is a very interesting thing. I hope I could try to answer some
Yes,
aspect.
sir, definitely. Sir, I had one more query. Sir, regarding once I went for a data collection, and there when I had the interaction, so they told me that there are many people who register themselves in Udyam portal, but they don't exist. So, sir, what could be done to prevent such kind of practices? Because it is showing the number of SMEs, there are large number of SMEs, but they in reality they don't exist.
Yeah. So one subjective answer I can give you, because it requires a detailed research. So, but one because we may not be having the data as of now, and the data collection processes take its own time. But one anecdotal way of understanding the thing I can give you is that there may be certain compliances which would have happened post their registration in Udyam portal, because of which they would have gone missing. So some compliances of some organization would have happened, some government organization, because of which we have to understand, again, we have to go back to their perspective. They're able to see nobody is a tax evader. So, I mean, in the first principles is that nobody is a tax evader. There may be some exceptions. So, given that understanding, there may be there, and we have inputs. I mean, informal inputs, that there were certain compliances because of which it was so. It had become cost benefit analysis was increasing the cost rather than the benefit. Then how will the economic entity function? They have to silently exit from that. I hope you could get the idea, because it is an anecdotal thing that I'm saying. And
Yes,
but then there were certain compliances you can, if you can uh, understand from certain key informants about what were, because for a researcher, if they are having the confidence in the researcher, they will share, and plus anonymity is also confirmed. So they will share, and they will, and one hypothesis I can give you right away is that there may have been certain government compliances or some other compliances which would have had an impact on the entities getting either getting themselves missed or getting themselves uh, गायब हो जाना का reason हो सकता है.
yes, sir.
Yeah, any other query?
Dear participants, you can ask if you have any questions.
So that is the reason why, especially among the recyclers, not very much are there, mainly because of the compliance, strict compliance from the environmental ministry.
Yeah, you are totally right, actually, because of the compliance is coming, and without building in the capacity of those people on whom the compliances have been implemented. Because at the end of the day, if I am a recycler, I have to look at my bottom line also, because I have to survive. I have to pay my employees. I have to run the business. Other cost, transaction costs are also there. Probably everybody is aware of it. So if we are realistic, we have to build the capacities of the people on whom the compliances are going to hit. Then the compliance will go to, for example, I take another example, CSRD. I think probably would have heard of European due diligence framework. It has come into, it has been announced by the European Commission last year.
Last year, yeah.
Yes. So there's a classic example of how they are giving time for the, and we are talking about European economic entities. Naturally, they have a greater economic viability than I'm relatively, again, subjectively speaking. And they are giving them time, learn, go on the learning curve, understand, then develop the economic viability, and then implement it. And it's a totally end-to-end supply chain environmental framework that they are having. And in that also is not legally binding right now. They have given it, they have announced it beforehand, everything is known, documented, published in the EU directives. Now all the European countries, and some may be very advanced, some may be not that much advanced, poorer EU nations may be there. So they have been given time to please learn, adapt, and then build the capacity where the public money has to be put in. You can tell us, I mean, the government resources. So putting in the compliances, I think, in my subjective opinion, will take a toll on the employment that it was generating, because at the end of the day, we have a huge employment deficit, and manufacturing again has a very high employment elasticity per unit of investment. Manufacturing, despite even low end manufacturing, I encourage high end manufacturing, but then even that manufacturing, even the manufacturing, for example, of toothbrushes, that also gives a higher employment. If we talk in terms of economics, manufacturing has higher employment elasticity as compared to services any day. In any case, services, we have already reached a saturation.
That Marwadi example is like truly good one for social trade finance.
Yes.
One of the most sustained and successful one.
Yes, naturally. And social capital has played a major role.
And they are not there on the list of events of finance ministry also.
So it's my subjective opinion, naturally.
No, that's what I'm saying, sir.
So at the end of the day, the requirement of the economic entities have to be felt, because in India, the major prime mover is the small and medium enterprises. In that also micro and cottage. Because if I take the statistics, the maximum number of economic entities who are having 4 and less than 4 employment. इसका मतलब ये हुआ
96% are basically micro or small.
Exactly. मैं वही कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि मैक्सिमम जो है 4 या 4 से नीचे का एम्प्लॉयमेंट दे रहे हैं. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि माइक्रो कॉटेज है. तो इसका मतलब इन्फेंट्री जो है वो माइक्रो कॉटेज है, नॉट द कॉर्पोरेट्स.
Actually, हाँ, सही बात है.
So this is the economic reality, and we have a enlightened audience to take their, understanding. So that is where, because see, at the end of the day, if the consumption basket of the masses is expanded, then only we'll be able to make a certain dent. Why? Again, not the right analogy, but China, in my subjective opinion, they were able to expand their prosperity to the masses. Despite the democratic, I'm not condoning that. Democratic constraints and everything else is there. Even today, the DeepSeek, if we ask about Tiananmen Square, it doesn't give any right data, which is wrong. So, but then they were able to expand the consumption basket to a majority of the people. So I think because as we all know in Business 101 that there are two types of differentiation. Michael Porter's, I mean differentiation by cost and differentiation. I mean strategy by cost and differentiation strategy. Cost always volume business always remains the same. I mean important thing. Volume business is very much important in case of India. But even big, we may have examples, counter people saying that why MSMEs are the only people who are important. See, even today we have such a huge population that even if big, I mean, apparels from abroad come to India, they will have big market because हमारे जो इतना population है उसमें से भी जो है minuscule है rich. उनकी भी परचेजिंग पावर बहुत ज्यादा है क्योंकि संख्या इतनी ज्यादा है इन माय सब्जेक्टिव ओपिनियन। यूरोप में संख्या कम है तो उसके लिए अब उसको वो स्किम करेंगे मार्केट को, उसके बाद जब आएंगे नीचे तब तक तो उनका काफी मार्जिन हो ही जाएगा प्रॉफिट का, which will serve at least 10-15 years for them, maybe 30 years.
Like
But-
CK Pradhan's bottom of the pyramid concept.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for giving us the deep insights. Even you restrict yourself a lot while giving the examples, but it was truly good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the participants for the patient hearing. Thank you.
Dear participants,